Hey guys, Tech here for another video, and today we're going to be talking about email applications for your Android device. And so you can see here that I brought up a list of email clients for Android, and we're going to be going through these one by one, just looking at some of the pros and cons. I'm going to be talking about what I do and don't like about some of these apps. And I'm going to tell you what my favorite one here is, which is actually going to be the first one we're going to cover, which is the Samsung email app. Now, I don't know if this is available for all Android devices. I know you can get the APK online if you want to download it and you're not using a Samsung device, but I believe you might be able to find it in the Play Store. I'll double check and I will post that in the description. But this is the app that I have on my Note 9 right now. It's my favorite email app just because of the smoothness of the performance. And there's some power features in here that I'll show you in a second that really was what made it my first pick for email management. So we're going to look at the Samsung email app here. And now you can see that the first thing to note here is that I'm using this with night mode enabled. And one thing that's kind of nice that not all of the email apps allow you to do is it does allow you to utilize the built-in night mode function. So if you're set up for it and you use night mode on your device, it'll automatically switch between normal and the dark theme here in the app, which is kind of nice. I'll show you later on what it looks like without the night mode enabled, but also you can see here that I have these little dots next to each of these emails, which indicates the unread marker. So if I want to look and see which emails I need to mark as read, it's very easy for me to identify those. It kind of reminds me of the iPhone Mail app as well, which is nice. The little dot there makes it really easy to find which ones are and are not marked as read. Another thing here, if I want to select a few, the way I have it configured is you just press and hold and you can select multiple. So if I press and hold on this first one here, and then I go ahead and start tapping on the below emails, then that's going to allow me to select just more emails and I can mark them as read or delete them or whatever I want to do. But another thing that I thought was really cool that not all the email apps allow you to do is if I tap and hold on the top one, and then I just drag down. As I drag down, it's going to gradually mark all of these as selected, and then I can go ahead and mark those as read and delete those or whatever I want. But instead of having to individually tap each one, once you press and hold on the top one, as you drag down, it just selects them, which is really nice, and I thought was a pretty useful feature. So you can see here I blurred out some of these emails that I don't want to kind of display, but you can put all of your emails in here as you'd like. So if I wanted to go ahead and put in my work email, my personal email, and more than one email that I have, I can certainly do that. You can go in here and you can select all accounts to see all the emails from all your different accounts in one view, or you can look at them individually. You can also click on the unread marker to see all of your unread messages across all of your accounts, or if you want to just see that per account, you can fine tune it that way as well. So that's useful, and here's the email application without the night mode enabled. So it's really basic. It does remind me just a little bit of the iPhone Mail app, which while I'm not an iOS user, I do appreciate the simplicity that is offered in the email app on iPhone. So certainly it's very simple and very elegant. I like the way it looks. Also here in the composing feature, when I want to compose a new email, there are some useful features here. It is rich text format by default, so I can go in here and I can change the font type, the text size, and things like that, and really just adjust all the different settings and things that I want to adjust so that I can send a nice email. And then if you wanted to turn off rich text, you can do that as well. You can adjust the priority of your emails and save them to drafts if you like, which is nice. And the search function is very useful as well. You can see here that I'm just searching for a general term, but if you wanted to search for a from address or to, or search for specifically subject, you can fine tune it that way as well. And compared to some of the other email apps that I've used, it's much quicker at finding content when you do a search versus some of the other ones, which might take a little bit of time to load the data you're looking for. And here I've just selected a bunch of emails, but the other thing to mention is in the top left-hand corner, if you click on that, or if you rather tap on that all button, you can select all your messages at once to easily just delete in mass, or if you wanted to mark them all read and things like that. So easy to use. Next, we're going to look at the Gmail app, which most of you should be probably familiar with, but here we're just looking at the overall layout and some features. Now, this is the compact view. I don't really particularly care for the compact view, um, but you can go in here when you have it set up however you'd like. You can look at all inboxes. If you wanted to use this for more than one email address, you can. It does not have to be Gmail only. But you can go in here and you can look at your primary email or other inboxes, and you can look at all of them at once if you like, just like the other ones that we've talked about. Um, I can also go in here and choose between the default, comfortable, and compact view. So we're going to go ahead and change this over to comfortable view. And you can see it does look nicer, I think, in this view. It's a little bit more clean. It adds in the profile icons. And there's just not a lot of bells and whistles or anything in here. It's pretty basic. I can go in and select my emails by tapping on the profile icons to the left of each of these messages and mark them as read, delete them. Not a lot of power features or anything, but it gets the job done. And if you use only Gmail, then of course, because it is a stock app and something that is likely already on your device, it is an easy option for those that want something simple. The next one we're looking at here is the Yahoo Mail app. And I wanted to call this one out because a lot of people don't know that this app actually works for more than just Yahoo emails. It does work for things like Gmail and other different inboxes, so it doesn't have to be just Yahoo. And I do have the night mode enabled here. It's not one of my favorites. You can see already at the top that it does have advertisements in the app itself. If I wanted to tap on the bottom left icon here, if I tap down here in the inbox icon with these little up and down arrows, that's going to allow me to see all of my different sections that I can navigate to. So I can navigate to my inbox or my drafts or my sent messages. Just the design is a little bit weird. I thought it's not really comfortable for me to use, and it does have a lot of promotional kind of things like deals in here, which aren't bad. There are some ways to save on shopping and things like that built in the app. But it's just a little bit confusing the way it's laid out, considering it is an email app, and it doesn't feel like the focus there is email so much. And again, just the layout wasn't great to me, and a lot of other competitors in the email space have zero advertisements. So if you're using Gmail, for example, and you use one of these other email apps, you're not going to have to worry about the ads that the Yahoo Mail app does input. So the next one we're looking at here is Mailwise, and I used to use this one. I stopped using it just because I think it's kind of become a little bit dated. You can kind of see here just the layout. It's okay. It's nothing special. I can select my emails by also clicking on the profile icon to the left of these messages. And if I want to delete them or mark them as read, pretty standard features, but you can just see it's a little bit boxy in terms of the design. And I think it looks a bit antiquated. Also, it does take a little bit of time for messages to load whenever I sign in. Whichever account I have loaded, it takes a while for them to populate. If I wanted to do a search, it takes quite some time for the search to execute, just because it's looking through all that data, and it takes a while for that data to load. So not one of my favorites anymore, but it is an option. The next one is AquaMail that we're going to look at. And AquaMail used to be my favorite app. I really think it looks really nice, really clean. You can see I really like the distinguisher between the read versus unread messages. You can see that it just sort of highlights those that are unread, and as you mark them read, they kind of just gray out a bit, but it's really easy to distinguish, and it's just very vibrant. You can change the color scheme if you want, but I like the kind of default view here, and it's just a really nice looking application. I can go through. I believe you can also press and hold to select these messages, or you can tap the icon to the left and you can customize the view here however you want. Favorite your messages very easily. So I like all of that. The only reason I really stopped using this mail application, to be honest, is because I did have some problems with it linking to one of my accounts. For whatever reason, it did support that particular email account, and I won't specifically say which one it was, but that particular one just for whatever reason was not working. Whenever I tried to sign in, it would fail or give some kind of an error message. So I ended up having to switch to a different email client, and eventually when I used the Samsung email client, I didn't have problems with that particular account. But for most accounts, it works fine, and the view is very nice. You can see it's got a smart folder function, so you can see all of your messages in one place. You can also choose whether or not you want to see just your unread messages or messages from a specific time frame, or if you want to just see everything all at once, you can do that as well, which is nice. You got a lot of features here from composing messages. You can attach images. You can even take a photo directly from the app, so you can just go ahead and point and shoot and take one, and it'll attach to that message. You can adjust your view, add text formatting, set your reply addresses, the priority, even request read receipts. So there's a lot of really powerful options in here. And again, I really like the view, just the way everything looks. I also like in the smart folder function here that you can see with each message as you're looking through that it actually adds the email just above those messages, so that when I'm looking through a list of all of my emails from all of my accounts, I can tell which one is from my business email versus my personal. So really, really great app, and that's probably my second favorite. Again, that last one was called AquaMail, and I would say that was really close in competition to my favorite app, but definitely in my top list there. So the next one we're going to look at is one that I've just recently started playing around with, so it's really relatively new to me, but it's called Spark, and Spark does something very interesting with the Smart Inbox feature here. You can see what it does is it separates all of your emails into clusters, and so I have emails separated into notifications and newsletters, and it just does this by default. So it's kind of categorizing your emails into these different categories, which is nice. It doesn't always work perfectly, but you can see that also in the top right corner here, these little check boxes or check marks that I have. If I click on these, it's going to allow me to select just from that particular group, and I can mark them as read and do different things like that with those messages, and I can view all for a certain category. I've got my personal ones. The only thing about this app is it doesn't always separate them into the categories that are preset perfectly. So some things it might consider a notification, for example, may not always be a notification. And so it just really depends on if you want your email sort of organized automatically for you, whether or not this is going to be a useful feature or not. You do have the ability to compose your messages with some standard features here. Again, you can add your images and adjust text, set reminders, and things like that. So that's all useful and pretty basic features. But again, I think the power function here of that Spark client is really just the again ability to see all of your messages in these different categories. That's really the thing that separates it and kind of sets it apart from other clients here. So the next one we're going to look at is Outlook, which is pretty straightforward here. I think that probably many of you guys have used Outlook before, whether on a PC or on a mobile device, but if you haven't, hopefully know about it. But this is a very, very basic application. It has all similar kinds of features to what you have in the desktop app, and it's okay. I've had some problems again also with the mobile version where it was not working with certain email accounts, so that was definitely a negative for me. And the interface is okay. It doesn't give me as clean of a view as some of the other email apps, and there's just feels like there's wasted space in certain areas. Here you can see I can go and sort through my unread, my flagged attachments and mentions. So it's really, I think, in my usage best for business use. You can use it for other things as well, but that's where it kind of excelled most for me. But it's definitely not my favorite app for personal use. Next one is TypeApp. TypeApp, I'm actually not going to look at this next one here, this Bluemail app, because I found that the layout and the UI is really almost identical to TypeApp, with the exception being that where you can see here on the top row that I have all of these four different kind of icons. It's kind of at the bottom on the Bluemail app, but overall the layout is almost identical, so I don't know if one of them kind of took from the other, or if they are partners and they have similar employees. I'm really not sure why they look so similar, but they almost kind of looked like a clone or identical to each other, so no sense in really looking at both individually. But for both Bluemail and TypeApp, my opinions here are kind of the same. It's okay. The layout is not bad. Again, there's a lot of wasted space, I thought, sort of at the top there, which I believe as you scroll, it does kind of eventually manage to make better use of the space. But There are some things that really for me just weren't very useful. So if you go into like the person area there to look at contacts and things like that, just not things that I necessarily need. And the overall layout and UI is okay. It's just not anything that I liked better than the other apps. I think they're just visually better. And really, for my opinion, visual feel is what I really like most about an email app. I want something that's comfortable in my eyes, that just feels nice to use, right? And so when I'm going through here, I'm selecting messages again. It's got the same basic functions to select multiple messages, mark them as read, clicking on that little circular icon down here. I can mark all at once. I can swipe left, and most of these apps you can do this as well. If you swipe left or right, there are usually these different kinds of functions, such as being able to mark them as read or to delete them and things like that, which I don't tend to use that often because I'm usually selecting multiple messages and then designating the function. I don't usually individually select a message or swipe to do those different kind of functions. But you can go in here into the settings as well. You see sort of the different setting options. You can choose your signature and customize that, set your calendar options, and look at global settings. This is one of the apps that I use that does by default add in a signature, so you want to make sure you remove that if you don't want it to say the name of the app that you're using every time you send a message, which if you're fine with that, then you don't have to. But I usually like to use my own signature or just keep it clean and not have anything. You can also, one thing that is useful here that was a little bit unique was the send message later function, which was pretty cool. If you want to send a message at a later point, but you want to go ahead and craft it, then you can. And also have that ability to enable plain text only or read receipt and some other things that you see is kind of similar to some of the other email apps. And now the next one that we're going to use here is 9 email app. And 9 is great. I love this app. I use it as my main email app for business. I do not use it for personal use. And you can see I had to block out a bunch of information because this is my work application. But it's got some really useful features here. You can have it, you can kind of choose what you want to sync here. So I'm syncing the folder with all of my data. You can adjust your notifications, filter the information in there, choose the sorting functions, look at different categories and things like that. So here, when I click on the hamburger icon in the top left-hand corner, I can look at all my mail, or I can just look at the inbox. I can view my unread messages if I'd like to just look at the unread messages, and my trash bin. And I can also look at my calendar as well. And it works very well. I mean, most of these apps are going to have some version of that function, but the calendar app here on the 9 messaging or 9 email app just works way better, for me at least, compared to some of the competition. And again, really, really clean. Does allow you to interact with your calendar. So if you want to set up a new meeting or if you want to cancel a meeting and things like that, you can do that in here. And the notifications are great for my meetings. So if I'm mobile and I want to receive all of my meeting invites and things like that, I can definitely rely on the notifications coming from this app. And it even, which I thought was, for me, the best thing about the business use case of this app, 9 messaging app, is the fact that it works so well with SSO. For those of you that don't know what that is, it's single sign-on, and so when I use this at work, I do have an SSO Office 365 account, and the nice thing about that is that even though I sign in, I have to put in my SSO, it stays signed in for several weeks, maybe a month, and it never re-prompts me until either password changes or eventually sometimes it times out, but it takes a while. And a lot of other apps do not do that. With SSO, it always causes problems, and I have a hard time finding an app that works well with that feature, at least on mobile devices. So some other things here, you have your tasks. Let's see here. Yeah, you have your tasks. You have your notes that you can store in there if you want to add notes in there. And I can go in here and I can customize the appearance pretty well. Again, you can use multiple email accounts. And as you saw at the very beginning too, if I just go back a few steps here, it's pin protected. So you can set a custom pin, and because I use this for work, It's really nice because I have a PIN that I have to use whenever I want to access that client. So 9 is by far my favorite email app to use for business purposes. It was, I believe, under $20, maybe under $15 to purchase the full app, and there is no subscription fee, which is great. It's a single purchase application. I want to say I paid $7 for mine, but I'll have that link in the description with the price. Very, very useful application for work, and if you wanted to use it for personal, you could. Again, I did pay for it, so I prefer the paid version. I wouldn't probably use it if I didn't pay for it, but I thought it was worth the investment for the work part because it just works so great for my needs. So the next one here is this email client, which just says email in my inbox here, but it's actually by Edison software. And so if you just search for email in the Play Store, you'll find email by Edison software. And this is actually a new one. Again, I haven't really used this one as much. It's got a pretty clean interface, and it works pretty well. I have multiple emails that I was able to sync up with here, and just here are some of the features. It has an assistant function that allows you to, kind of similar to one of the previous apps that we looked at, where it had some separation of different categories and things like that. I think the main purpose here is to be able to sort everything into different categories and see your bills separated from everything else. And you can see here the assistant's going to allow you to separate your bills and your travel and your packages and entertainment and things like that. So if I just scroll back here, if I move back to where I was at, you can see here the assistant function. So when I go into my settings here, if I was to tap on packages, for example, it would show me all of my packages like Amazon or something like that, my subscription-based emails and things. The reason I didn't necessarily care for this one that much is because the separating functions, what really distinguishes it from other apps, didn't seem to work perfectly. It wasn't really finding a lot of package-based emails or emails that were meant for a package, for example. It wasn't actually finding them, and I'm not sure what it uses to pull that information, but it was a little bit spotty in terms of how it was working there. And it's okay, it just doesn't have a lot of features that really put it above the other options in the list here, at least for me. And the next one here is Spike. A couple things that I didn't particularly care for with Spike was the fact that you're not able to select more than one message at once by pressing and holding, like some of the other options on the list here. When you press and hold, the default action is it just marks it as read. And I had a hard time being able to easily select multiple messages at once. You can certainly do it. And here you can again swipe left, and you have the ability to take different actions on the messages. But just the way that the app works and the way you interact with your messages wasn't as fluid as some of the other options like AquaMail and some of the other ones that I really liked on the list. And then it has these groups, but I didn't really find that they were that useful for me. And the other thing that was also kind of interesting, which I guess it could be a positive, it could be a con, is that the best way I was able to actually interact with my messages was by days. I guess it is kind of a positive that you can see here. It does cluster them into messages from today, for example, and you can see below that I have my messages from yesterday. And so if I click on this little checkbox in the top right-hand corner, I can select all the messages from today. I can scroll down, I can select all the ones from yesterday. So that's a way that you can sort of mass select, but you have to kind of go to each day and select that way and then deselect them. So that was okay, but again, the layout and the UI is okay, just not better than the other ones, and it wasn't my favorite email app. And then the final one here I'm going to spend very little time with because this one does have advertisements. It's called Easymail. And I'm just not a fan of a lot of the messaging apps that have advertisements unless they present some kind of really great value like 9, like AquaMail. Those were definitely worth the purchase just because the UI and some of the power features. And AquaMail, by the way, has probably of all of these the most customization available. It's really incredible. You can customize the color. You can customize every little fine-tuned feature of that app. So that's one of the reasons I really like that app a lot, but this one is just kind of bare bones. You can go in here again, you can look at all your different emails at once. And a lot of these, as you can see, kind of has similar kind of feel interface-wise. This looks like some of the other apps that I've seen, but it's got advertisements, and it looks similar to other apps that perform similar functions, but don't have advertisements built into the app. So, not my favorite. And then there was one other email app on there called Newton Mail, which I didn't include in the list because it's gone downhill so much. They do really try to promote the paid version, which is subscription based. I'm not going to even put it up here because it's really overpriced for what it is. Like I said, with AquaMail and with Nine, it's a single fee. You pay one time. It's less than $20 on both of those apps, and once you've purchased it once, forever you can use the full pro features. That's worth it for, I think, a good email app, but a subscription is absolutely not worth it. And for any of these email apps where you have to pay a monthly fee, I do not think it's worth it because there are just too many options out there that are better. So those are the email apps that I wanted to cover. Hopefully this is helpful for you guys. I went through the ones that I thought were most popular and that I've got some experience with myself. So my favorite apps by far is definitely the Samsung email app. That's my daily driver. That's my personal favorite. With a close runner-up being AquaMail for personal use. It's a great, great email application with tons of power features, and the Pro version is really elegant. Unlocks all the different capabilities and features. And then Nine Mail, again, the paid version that I have there is awesome, but especially if you want to use it for business, it's really great. So wanted to just kind of go over that. And then the next thing I wanted to just briefly talk about here before I go is some ways that you can support the channel. So I have mentioned a number of different kinds of products and things in the past, but there's a few things I'm going to put in the description for you guys if you do want to support the channel. One thing I like to really find is ways to make extra free money and free cash. And you can see I've got some different apps here. Some of these are going to be linked in the description. Drop, for example, if it'll let me show this one here, is an app that allows me to go in here and basically find different deals on things. So I get points whenever I purchase things from certain locations. So it's really useful to be able to get some points to be able to redeem for gift cards and things like that. So if I was wanting to go on eBay and to purchase something, instead of just purchasing directly through eBay, I can get some free points to redeem for cash or redeem for gift cards. Ebates, which is now Rakuten, is also great and even better in my opinion. You can see it's got a ton of different options of stores and places that you can go where you can get a percentage off of everything from that location. 3% off of Kohl's, 5% off of Amazon, and things like that. So these kinds of apps I'll put in the description if you want to support the channel. They're completely free to you, and they get you discounts off of things online. Whenever you sign up, we both get a little bit of extra kind of cash or credit. So it's good thing for you. I'll also just really quickly show you Ibotta. It's a similar app that does similar things, but the thing that's kind of unique here is that this really caters to when you're grocery shopping. And so whenever you're at Walmart, for example, there are all kinds of different deals that you'll find in here where if you get, for example, like a pack of Oreos, you might get $1 off or $2 off or something. And again, this is also a free app for you to get. Just a couple more things before I go, things to support the channel. If you guys are interested in checking out the Cash App, if you don't have it, I actually have a Cash App debit card that I got, and it has my business name on it. It has Haxer Tech on it, so you can actually put in whatever text you want, which is really nice. You can customize your own debit card you get, and it's completely free. You can send money to friends, or you can send it to family, and also you can immediately withdraw cash. So if I go in here and I wanted to get money from my bank account and put it into this app, then I could do that, which is really nice. The other thing, too, is you have boosts on your debit card that you create with the Cash App. So once you have your debit card, if you go into the boost, there are things like 10% off of Chick-fil-A, 10% off of other stores and retail environments. And all you have to do is select the boost that you want to use, which is really cool. That way, whenever you go and you use your debit card at those locations, it's going to give you a discount, which is really nice. And then the final thing that I wanted to show you guys, again, the final way to support my channel. If you guys are interested, and again, these are not things that you have to actually purchase. This is not for you guys to actually purchase anything here. It's just things that are useful for you, get you free things, but it also gives me a little bit of a commission. These are not sponsors. These are just things that I independently found and reviewed and am kind of promoting here. And so the final one is Robinhood, which again, the link will be in the description. And this is just a free way to get stock, basically. You can go in and you can choose to buy stock. The thing that's nice about Robinhood, if you guys haven't heard of it before, it's been in the news a lot. There's no fees for purchasing stock or for selling your stock. Obviously, you just have to pay whatever the price is. But it's got a really, really clean interface, and they're even coming out later on with their own sort of bank account option where you can have a debit card with them. But if you guys sign up with this, you do get a free share of one specific stock, things like Bank of America or Chase or maybe Target or something like that. Just some examples to throw out there. But they give you a single stock of one random company when you sign up with the link that's going to be in the description. So if you guys want a free stock, completely free, no cost to you guys, use that link and it'll get you some free money. So those are the things I wanted to show you guys. If you guys want to support the channel, there's also going to be an option to donate. If you guys want to donate, you can. That'll be in the description as well. But that's it for this video. Again, those are my favorite applications for use for email. If you guys like this video, feel free to give it a like, comment below, and I'll be happy to answer any questions. And I really appreciate it, guys. I will see you in the next video. Take care, and see you then.